101 Dalmatians. Roger was a musician. He lived in a flat with Pongo, his pet Dalmatian. One day, while walking Pongo, Roger met a woman called Anita. She owned a lady Dalmatian called Perdita. Roger and Anita fell in love and decided to get married. Soon Perdita was expecting her first litter of puppies. Life seemed perfect until one day an old friend of Anita, Cruella de Vil, came to visit. Perdita and Pongo were frightened of her. Cruella stormed inside looking for the puppies. "Where are the little brutes?" she demanded. "It'll be at last 3 weeks," replied Anita. "No rush in these things, you know." Anita offered Cruella a cup of tea, but Cruella couldn't stay. "Let me know when the puppies arrive," said Cruella. "Cheerio, darling." With that, Cruella slammed the door and was gone. 3 weeks later, during a dark and stormy October night, Pongo and Perdita became the proud parents of 15 perfect puppies. Roger, Anita, and Nanny the housekeeper were delighted. That same night, as lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, Cruella returned. 15 puppies, she cried excitedly. "How marvelous! I'll take them all." "We're not selling the puppies," said Roger, who wasn't going to put up with Cruella's demands anymore. "Not a single one." "Just wait," cried Cruella angrily. "You'll be sorry, you fools, you idiots." A few weeks later, when the puppies were older and had their spots, Cruella's henchmen Horace and Jasper Badoon lay in wait to dog-map the puppies. They sat in their van and waited for Roger and Anita to take Perdita and Pongo for their evening walk. Once the coast was clear, the bandits forced their way into the house. When Nanny tried to stop them, the bandits locked her in Roger's music room. By the time Nanny managed to escape, the bandits were gone, and so were the puppies. The police immediately launched an investigation, but as the days went by, the puppies were still not found. After realizing the humans weren't getting anywhere, Pongo said to Perdita, "I'm afraid it's all up to us." Pongo decided to try the twilight bark. This was the quickest way for dogs to send and receive news across the country. That evening, when the 2 Dalmatians were taken for their walk, Pongo barked the alert from the top of Primrose Hill. After a moment, an answering bark was heard. "It's the Great Dane at Hampstead," Pongo said to Perdita, and he barked out his message. Danny the Great Dane was very surprised by the message. 15 Dalmatian puppies stolen, he told a terrier friend. "The humans have tried everything. Now it's up to us dogs, the twilight bark." Danny's big, deep voice began to send the news all over London. Within the hour, word had spread north, south, east, and west all over England. Before too long, the twilight bark reached an old sheepdog called Colonel, who lived on a farm. Colonel's friends, a horse named Captain and a cat named Sergeant Tibbs, listened too. They were all very surprised to hear that 15 puppies had been stolen. "I just remembered," Tibbs said to Captain and Colonel. 2 nights past I heard puppy barking over at Hell Hall." "You mean the old DeVille place? No one's lived there for years," said Colonel. "Strange indeed. Well, I suppose we better investigate." So Colonel and Tibbs went quietly up to the manor house. Being small enough, Tibbs was able to sneak inside. He saw Horace and Jasper Badoon were eating supper and relaxing in front of the television. All round the room there were puppies, not 15 nor even 50, but 99 of them. Colonel quickly returned to Captain's stable and loudly barked the good news. Within no time at all, the twilight bark sent a message all the way back to London that the puppies had been found. It finally reached the ears of Perdita and Pongo. They set off across the snowy countryside as fast as they could to rescue their puppies. Meanwhile, Tips was keeping watch on the house. When he saw Cruella drive up to Hellhole, he went up to the manor to hear what was happening. Cruella was ordering the bandits to kill the puppies. "It's got to be done tonight," she cried. "I'll be back first thing in the morning." With that warning hanging in the air, she turned and was gone. Tips was horrified. Cruella wanted to kill the puppies. There wasn't a moment to lose. As soon as the bandits began watching television again, Tips crept through a hole in the wall and whispered to the nearest puppies, "You better get out of here if you want to save your skins." When all the puppies had been alerted, Tips led them to a hiding place in the manor. As soon as the bandits discovered that the puppies had gone, they searched all over the house and eventually found them cowering under the stairs. Tips was in front, ready to protect them from the bandits. Meanwhile, Colonel had met up with Perdita and Pongo and led them to the manor house. They arrived just in the nick of time and quickly bounded into action. Perdita attacked Horridge while Pongo tore at Jasper's trousers. Under cover of the fight, Tips led the puppies out of the house to the safety of Captain's stable. Leaving the bandits in a heap on the floor, Perdita and Pongo dashed after the puppies. "Everybody here?" asked Pongo. "All 15. "Twice that many, Dad," replied one of the puppies. "Now there's 99 of us." "What on earth would she want with so many?" asked Perdita, wondering what Cruella was planning. "She's going to make coats of us," said another puppy sadly. Pongo and Perdita were shocked and decided to take all the puppies back to London with them so they'd be safe. Perdita, Pongo and the puppies set off back to London, leaving a trail of paw prints in the snow. Cruella, who had returned for the puppy coats, quickly spotted the paw prints and the chase began. Eventually, after trudging across the cold countryside, Perdita and Pongo led the tired puppies to the shelter of a blacksmith shop. Cruella and the bandits were still on their trail, determined to catch them. Suddenly, Pongo had an idea. He made the puppies roll in some soot until they all looked like black Labradors. Under the cover of their disguise, the puppies climbed into a van that was going to London. But fallen snowflakes began to wash away the soot. Cruella saw white patches appearing on the puppies' coats and realized that she had been tricked. "After them!" she shouted to the bandits. Pongo just had time to leap onto the bumper as the van sped off with Cruella and the bandits right behind. Cruella was determined to force the van off the road, but her car skidded out of control and hurtled down a steep hill into a snowdrift. Then the bandits' van crashed into the back of Cruella's car and they all ended up in a large pile of wreckage. Back in London and home at last, Roger, Anita and Nanny hugged their 15 tired puppies. "And look, there's a whole lot more," said Nanny. Roger, Anita and Nanny counted up all the dogs in their house. 101, declared Anita. "What will we do with them?" "We'll keep them," cried Roger happily. "In this little house?" asked Anita. "We'll buy a big place in the country," replied Roger. "It will be a sensation," said Nanny, and that's exactly what it was.